Well, if you've watched all the other videos this week, by now you're probably thinking, the teaching orchestra guy is pretty picky. Fair enough. I prefer to think of myself as conscientious or detail-oriented. So if you're my evaluator, please use those terms in my next evaluation. In any case, we're going to be talking about the bow. Now, you should probably check the bow as well as the instrument because, again, the bow is half of the component of a good working instrument. How good a shape is this bow in? A lot of your beginners are going to be using glacier bows because they're virtually indestructible, and I say virtually because I have seen them break before. Yeah, I know, they're pretty solid plastic, but they will break if you abuse them enough. Okay, so the things that you're going to need to check for on the bow, first of all, the bow hair. Now you can just visually inspect it to see how dirty it is. Is this bow rosined or not? You can play it against something and see if it makes a sound. And how healthy is the bow hair? So right now we're going to do a bow hair test and see how healthy the bow hair is. So I'm just going to grab a bow hair. Oh no, we're taking a bow hair off? Yeah, there's 300 more. Relax. Just taking one. So we're just going to take it up here and down here. And I'm just going to find a spot here in the bow hair and I'm just going to test it. I'm going to pull on it like this and I'm going to see how much it will stretch before it breaks. So here I go, pulling on it, stretching pretty good. Wow, that's some good stretch. And then finally it snaps, okay? So if it's brittle, it'll just snap right away. That means it's not good bow hair anymore. It's well beyond its use case, and you need to get that bow re-haired. If it's a first-time rental or something, you want to rent a bow with the bow hair that's already spent? No. Send it back to the shop, have them re-hair the bow. This is particularly common with the glacier bows because it's about the same price to buy a new bow as it is to rehair it. So they like to try to get their mileage worth out of the bows and not ever rehair them. Would it surprise you that sometimes I do clinics for high school orchestras and I show up and there's still glacier bows there that haven't been rehaired maybe since their beginning days of orchestra? Oops. So testing out the bow hair quality is essential because we have to be able to get some grip or some shearing force on the string so that we can start shaping our bow motion. You don't want to do this purely from a mechanical point of view and say, all right, now the elbow needs to do this and there's too many moving parts. You have to be able to get some resistance on the string so you can pull against the resistance. That's what's going to shape your bow motion. That skips a lot of steps. It's like, oh, well, your thumb should be this way, but then when you get to the tip, it straightens in, your pinky straightens, whatever. Like, yeah, it's too much. That, if you ask a caterpillar which foot it steps with first, it'll fall down. It doesn't want to think about all that stuff. It just wants to walk. Okay, so make it as easy as possible for the students. After you've checked the bow hair and make sure the bow hair is in good shape and there's enough rosin on the bow and it can bow very well, you want to check the screw of the bow. How tight can you get this thing? If you can't screw it and tighten it up well enough to where it can get nice and tight, you're going to have problems. And you also don't want to teach the students to tighten it too tight like I just did. A pencil's width is fine. And you want to make sure it can loosen up too. It's easy to turn so that your students can be loosening their bows every time they're done playing. Now, it's to your advantage to get the students bowing as soon as possible. That's what separates us from the band. That's what separates from the choir and the piano type stuff, guitar, is that in orchestra we use the bows. So it's good marketing and good branding to have them use the bows as early as possible. And plus there's like this kinesthetic attachment to it where bowing just feels really good to do, and that helps your retention. One thing that we can do besides having a good working bow to get our students to bow faster in the progression is to have them use these bow buddies. And these bow buddies are really good at shaping the bow holds so you don't have to mess with it for 6 months while they're plucking and doing all that other stuff. And that's great that they're making sounds on their instrument, but, it's like similar to how they move their fingers on a clarinet. Orchestra is more than just the left hand. It's mostly about the right hand. And, so we want to take advantage of this. Bow Buddy helps you make that go faster. There's some advantages and disadvantages of using a Bow Buddy or whatever bow hold modifier that you use. And I'm going to go over that later in this video. But right now, I'm just going to show you how to put one on. It's actually pretty quick. You just take the screw and you unscrew it all the way till it comes off. Okay. Pull the frog forward a little bit till it comes out, and I like to hold it so the bow hair doesn't get all tangled up. We take the frog part of the frog and we just slide it up, and I like to slide it up quite a bit so that it doesn't get in the way of me putting the bow back on. And then I'll put it back when it's done. So I slide it up, well past the gripping to the winding. Okay, gonna put the bow hair back, or the frog back into the notch. I'm gonna take my screw. I'm gonna screw it back in. Hopefully it catches. Make sure it catches and you can tighten it. Good deal. Sometimes the little thing inside the gets out of position. That's not good. You're gonna have to line it back up or send it back to the shop. Don't mess with it, send it back to the shop. Okay, I'm gonna tilt this frog a little bit so they got room for their thumb. Now, the base of the frog, the posterior end of the frog, should be where the gripping and the end of the frog meet. That's where their thumb should go. Get used to them. Make them get used to having their thumb in the right position, so make sure this little guy's posterior is in the right spot. Okay, then we got this one. It's a little fish. Okay, and we're going to install this little fish. Now, you want to install it from the notch end, okay, not from this other end. It does have a hole in the top for the pinky. Don't let that confuse you. But we're going to install it this way where the notch slides in and this hole is in the back because it needs to, that little notch is to go on this side of the frog. So we're going to move it over here, and this is adjustable to the student. So as you're going around, however big or small the student's hand is, you're going to have to move this thing around so that that the pinky's not way out here and like they have enough room for their other fingers. And then all you got to do is get them to put their thumb inside the frog, where the thumb goes, and it makes them curve the thumb and it makes them curve the pinky. Okay, so again, you can bow in the middle of the bow and you can get them going right away. Okay, disadvantages, all right? So as you bow out towards the tip, you get less flexibility with the fingers, okay? Because your fingers are kind of locked into this from the frog position. So you can get to the frog and do pretty well. You start getting out towards the tip and it's a little harder. You have a little bit of room, but your thumb's not going to be bending too much. That's the point of this thing. And as you learn how to develop your bow hand does move quite a bit. It is pretty flexible, but get them going. All right, great. Start from the middle of the bow and then have them work out. And once they start moving to the other parts of the bow, take it off. Okay. Other thing that it does is it completely re-weights the bow so that there's a lot more weight here. So what we would call the balance point, is where it actually balances is like right here now. Oops. Instead of like way out here. So the balance point's definitely going to change and the weight and feel of the bow is definitely going to change. That might be an issue, but again, it gets them bowing a lot faster. It gets their bow hold set up. You can still do your bow hold exercises on a pencil or something. That helps them take their pencil out at the beginning of class so they can mark in their music or, write down your sage words of wisdom while you're teaching the class, and it helps them set up their bow hold on something lighter and something where they're less likely to poke someone's eye out as when they're doing this. And you can still do the up like a rocket, down like the rain thing with the Bow Buddy on, no big deal. And again, you don't have to have this on all year, put it on and, until October, November, whatever, and then take it off and see what they can do without it. But this helps things go a lot faster in your class. Okay, you might not be able to buy one of these for all of your students, but you could put it on your supply list and make them buy it. They're not that expensive. You can tell the shops like, hey, for I want them to have this method book, and I also want them to have rosin and a polishing cloth and a tuner and a bow buddy. You can just add it to the list and make sure they get it. And the shops might be able to build that into the rental cost of the instrument or the lease cost, whatever they're doing, so that they don't have to pay it all up front. They can pay it over the course of the instrument rentals year, something like that. All right. So, that's my comments on the bow, how to get them to start bowing faster. That's going to be essential for your beginners. For your second year, third year, etc. students, check their bow hair quality, make sure it's good. You can start getting into the high school level with this kind of stuff. You can have them help each other. Hey, check your stand partner's bow hair. Check their whatever, see if they have any open seams. You can create some accountability that way so that you don't have to do all of it, and, teach them how to be honest and give good critical feedback. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this series. It's a little different than what we've done in the past. And so, again, if there's anything that you have to contribute that you think is valuable, please don't be afraid to put it down in the comments. If you have any questions or whatever, drop it down in the comments. If you want to see my instrument specification requirements for our school district, just send me an email, teachingorchestra@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to just email you the PDF of my doc, and you can change it however you want to. You can just use that. I don't care. I don't make money from it. So anyway, I hope you enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you in episode 4.